Good evening, everybody. Let's call the meeting to order at 6:06 on that clock, so it's obviously wrong. We'll call it 7:06. Call the meeting, the April 19th regular meeting of the Roseville Township Police Commission. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Mike?
No.
No.
Nope. Nope.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 15th regular Police Commission meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I guess we'll move right into the monthly reports.
Hello. We're going to try and, for the department reports, we're going to kind of change up the order a little bit. Ken and I are going to split it up a little bit different. So I'm going to go over a little overview of what's kind of happened in the last month and talk about some proposals for the next month. Just overviews. And then I'm going to go into the budget, and then Ken's going to do the month report and some things that he wants to go over also, just to kind of, instead of going back and forth. So, all right.
Fine.
So I noticed on the bottom of this, it says the deer call update. Talking to Detective Pete Darzniak, who runs the deer call team, he wants to come next month and do a presentation about the numbers and where the meat had been distributed to
Great.
and all that stuff. He kind of wants to give a better presentation on that than me quoting it right now. And he asked that we push that till next month on the final numbers on everything, which I think is a good idea. Dispatch update. We had over 100 interest or different avenues of people communicating with us about the dispatch. We narrowed it down to 9. We narrowed it down to 4. Now we're down to our final 2. So they're in the background process. One of the dispatchers is they've almost finished that process for her background investigation. And the other one, they're still continuing, but it'll be a little bit longer because one of our detectives is on vacation. So hoping to move it along. And then from there, it would be a conditional offer and then the continuation of the process. On March 22nd, myself and Deputy Chief Pellin went to the school board, and then we did like a reintroduction of ourselves to the school board and that community about our available resources for the schools, from the police, letting them know that if they need us, we're going to be there for them. On March 25th, the department participated in a school lockdown drill with some of the schools. I don't want to get into particulars of what they did, but our detectives and some of the road guys participated with the schools and their teams on how they did their lockdown drills. So we do this every month, or almost every other month, a couple times a year. So as you guys know, if you haven't already, our latest hire, Luis Hurtado, started on the 11th. He's doing great. I think he's on day number 6 or 7 for the reporting period, and he's doing great. He's fitting in well, getting along with the other officers, showing a lot of drive. And then one of the last things I wanted to go over is that our current DEA officer, John Ferguson, is going to retire in October. I just spoke to him on the way here. He is for sure going to be out the door. He's already got a date set. He's already booked reservations for quite a while with him and his family that when he leaves, he's leaving town that day that he can. So what I'm asking is next month we're going to come and say we can either wait till he leaves and be less manpower, or we can start this process in May. And we have another person that's already on the eligibility list, or we can start a process. That's something we're going to come ask you guys about to kind of get a hiring. Let's kind of be proactive on the situation and get it instead of waiting for him to leave and be down some manpower.
That prospect who's on our current list could be gone.
I did speak to him maybe 3 weeks ago, and he has, since he went through our interview process here and he became on the eligibility list, he has since applied for other departments downriver. So I don't blame him, but he's on our eligibility list. So that's all. I'm not playing games and saying that's the facts of the matter. Any questions?
Can we talk about this right now just
Yeah.
for a minute?
Well, why don't we wait till we get into the discussion updates and talk about all of them at once?
Fair enough.
Any questions on any of that, or?
Pardon?
No, I just want to make sure that we,
Oh, no, I'm with you. I've got a list here already. I just started.
Any questions on any of that, those updates? Like I talked about last commission meeting, that I was gonna bring the end of the year numbers for our last budget year. This has not been audited, and this is not the official one, but these are the numbers I was given today, so give you a brief overview on that. Oh, that's pretty- That- Just to kind of give you an overview. They give you just an overview. You can see where we ended up on the salaries, and then the overtime. And the overtime was expected with the COVID, and then we had retirements and new hires. And when people retire, we have to provide overtime to fill up those spaces, so that causes more overtime. And then we had the COVID for a long period of time that went through the building. And then, is there any question? I know I'm being really fast on this, but you can see where the vehicles had gone up higher than they were, but they have a greater cost this past year. For anything you want to buy in any store, everything costs more now. So prices were rising before this budget had been adjusted to where we're at now, and they're continuing to rise now for this current budget. So, any questions on this page?
When the official one's out, you'll send us a copy?
Yeah. Well, yes. This is just, like I said, Ann had said that this one is not the
No, I
official
agree.
audited version,
that's
so
why
I don't
we
want to.
want it out
Yeah, but I said last meeting that we'd bring this in.
published, but when it,
And, second page of the final numbers. So you can see where it says net revenues and expenditures, and the percentages, that we're at 103% of the budget, which is pretty amazing. I think some of the COVID money that they paid back for the overtime did help out those numbers considerably, and we did not buy a car last year on the budget. So it did help out considerably on the offset. Any questions on that? Yeah, that's fine. No rush. Good? All right.
any questions on this side?
Nope.
Deputy Chief Pellin? Still want this on?
Good evening, gentlemen. Going to go over a few of the statistics that we're going to highlight the month of March with. First and foremost, our calls for service, general calls for service, were up 18% from the month of February. We went from 723 calls to 885. Those are your vehicle lockouts, house alarms, larcenies, and so forth. No surge in crime, just a number of calls, maybe because we had some warmer weather in there, more activity. Our traffic enforcement for the month included 44 citations in total, and the officers also issued 91 verbal warnings. So 2-to-1 rate when it comes to citations versus verbal warnings. We had 0 car deer crashes for the month, which is a good thing. Year to date, we're at 4. Last year to date, we were at 8, so we're half of where we are. And I think next month when Detective Darzniak comes before you, you'll be very happy with his numbers in the deer call. Training for the month of March included topics on pressure point control tactics and CPR. We sent 2 officers, one to each of those classes, to become instructors so we can continue our in-house training, help to be fiscally responsible by doing that. We also had training on managers accreditation program to get our department on track for accreditation. Narcotics, our SWAT training, which occurs once a month, and we also had canine maintenance, our standard training for the month as well. This month we're focusing on training the entire department in CPR and first aid. Officer Beaudry became an instructor, and he's in the process of training everybody on our department to get us up to date in those certifications. Next month we're going to qualify with our firearms, our sidearms, our pistols, and our shotguns. Officer Secretaris was able to secure the outdoor Rockwood range for us, free of charge, which is a beautiful thing. It saves us money. We don't have to rent a range. And we're in the process of signing a long-term agreement with the city of Trenton to use their indoor range for our fall or winter qualifications. Detective Bureau was assigned 9 cases. They cleared all 9. So they did a good job with clearing the cases that they were assigned. 2 notable cases. One involved an OWI third offense, operating while intoxicated. The subject blew a .23, which is almost 3 times the legal limit. An officer came across the vehicle that was in a ditch. It had just crashed, and she came across and was able to arrest that person before he got back out on the road. The other one was a notation in your juvenile report and involved a 16-year-old that assaulted his mother. A petition was filed with a Third Circuit Court for domestic violence. Our SWAT and crisis negotiation team officers were activated 3 times in the month. 2 of them were for, I don't want to say routine because they're never routine, but for search warrants to assist other agencies in conducting a high-risk search warrant. And the third one was for an active shooter in the city of Taylor. We responded to that.
How did that resolve itself? Or
Not
how
the way we wanted it.
involved?
Not the way that we wanted it. Not the way that we wanted it. And it's still under investigation, so I'm kind of limited and,
No, I agree.
yeah. Chief Carmack has sent out letters to each one of our establishments that sell alcohol and/or tobacco products to let them know that we're going to be doing our compliance checks in the near future. We do that for 2 reasons. First, give them notice that we're going to be inside their shops and we're going to be checking them, and to remind them not to sell to minors. So in the next month or so, we will send minors into the stores, see if they can't purchase tobacco or alcohol products, and then take the appropriate action depending on the violation. So that's all I have as far as the monthly statistics go. You guys have any questions for me?
I got a couple, Ken. Did we get the crash report in this package?
You should have it. You're talking about the number of vehicle crashes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be in there.
I don't think I saw it. Did you get it?
We had
Electronic version.
we had a total of 4 traffic crashes. 1 was a hit and run, 2 were on private property, and alcohol was involved in another.
So, okay.
After the monthly stats. It's after this one.
Oh, okay.
Highlighted in yellow.
Total crashes.
Is that it? Oh, I got it. My bad. Good. Well, that's great progress on the deer crash.
It's good to see a 0.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
like goose eggs on that. In that
Making a
column.
difference. Vehicle information. One of the things that I've been asking for consistently for quite some time is
Average miles.
how our average miles compare to our fleet year over year, just to get an idea. You know, is the fleet getting older? Is it newer?
I remember that coming up last year, and
Yeah.
I
That's something we
w-
can do.
yeah, I wasn't tasked with that assignment, but I can assure you that we can get it for you. But my question would be: is do you want the average for each vehicle or average total?
No, average overall.
Average
So-
overall. Okay.
So the average miles for the fleet, March 22, is, 25,000, and last March 21, it was 20,
Yep.
and
I would be glad to delegate
so
that.
that, we can directionally, we know that, our fleet, it's older, newer, whatever.
I know the chief alluded to the cost of parts and things that we're purchasing. We've had a brief discussion about ordering another vehicle for the fleet because we know it's going to take 3 or 4 months to get it, and then it's going to take a long time to equip it.
Count on that.
Yes, yes. So that's going to be in our hopper too.
Then the other question I just happen to have is on the overtime. So we had 141 hours, March 21, and then for March of 22, it's 216. And then there was 142 for the call. Are those, it's the breakdown of overtime, this one here?
Yep, I got it.
That's a pretty big increase. And I'm just wondering, were we still pretty much understaffed a lot in March, or it just seems like a big,
Well, in March, we were doing the call. That was just
I think
finishing
they're
up.
separately though.
They are separate, yeah.
Okay, so the call's 142, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then, so then your normal number is 216 versus 141. I was just looking at that and, curious as to what you would think. Could it have been vacations? I mean, it could have been a lot of things. We had a lot of people working a lot
I know
of time.
we had some random sick days in there. I don't recall any vacation. Sometimes training causes overtime with travel time, depending on where it's being held at, that kind of thing.
I don't have any other questions. Thanks.
Well, Ken? I do. Maybe these guys do. Real quick, just on the youth report,
Yes,
a JCO1 was forwarded
yes.
requesting the petition. So the JCO1's a petition?
That's correct. Those two terms are interchangeable. A petition or a JCO1 is what we would refer to as a warrant recommendation for an adult. It's just a request for potential charges to be reviewed and levied if necessary, or warranted.
That means our detective bureau is still investigating, or does that get turned over to another investigative agency?
No, it gets turned over to the prosecutor's office because the investigation's concluded, and then
Okay.
they make a determination based on those
Okay.
facts.
And on the truancy,
Yes.
ultimately that gets turned over to the school administration for action?
Well, truancy can.
If whatever,
Corrective action can be taken in a variety of different ways. The school can handle it internally. If that's not resolved, we can always refer the minor to the youth assistance program in Southgate. They could require him to
but do
do,
we do that, or does school administration do
in
that?
conjunction with us. We facilitate it for the schools. If it's a chronic problem, we have sent petitions to the court for possible charges against the minor and/or the parents. We have an ordinance against parents not requiring their kids to go to school.
And on the OWI in the ditch, is
Yes.
a person known to the department?
No, I don't believe the prior
That's
two
fine.
arrests were with us.
Anyone else have any questions?
I don't.
No. Thanks.
Oh, no problem.
But on that overtime, I'll call you afterwards, but it'd be nice to see a chart like over 5 years. What was it every year?
For the overall overtime.
Month to month, it can go up or down, but, if we go 5 years, it'll start showing if there's a trend there that we missed.
I think 2020, 2021 are gonna
Yeah,
be
that's gonna be
such
your-
blips on the radar. It was crazy for
Well,
us.
and it'll
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, it'll show,
And that'll be an explainable variance.
yeah.
Do you want it month to month for 5 years? Is that what you wanted
No, total.
total?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably like
Just
January to
for the year.
December.
Okay.
That washes out all of the who took more vacation 1 month or another, or whatever.
I'm gonna briefly tell you what our animal control officer did during the month as well. She's seen an increase in interactions with wildlife because it's mating season, it's warmer temperatures, and so forth. She took in 1 dog and 13 cats. Most were surrendered to her because the owners were becoming elderly, couldn't care for the animals any longer. So she has a full shelter. On March 23rd, she did a speaking engagement with a Girl Scout troop about helping people. So she did some community policing for us, some public outreach. The house that was donated is still in repair mode. She's had over 100 hours of volunteer time donated to fixing it up, if you will. And it's supposed to be listed here pretty soon. She's gotten even some help from contractors that try to refurbish it for sale. And that's all she's got. She's been busy, I know that, bouncing from call to call. So, any questions about the ACO report?
Thank you.
Good evening. I have the reserve report for March 2022. Reserve and cadet hours. Reserve hours were 38.5 hours. The cadet hours were 0 hours. And for the February events was the Rock CF 5K and half marathon, which went really well. There's a few things we'll be discussing to get corrected with that, but it overall went well. Didn't have any incidents out of that. And then we have May 11th, we will be having the bike to school that will be coming up, so we'll be supporting the elementary schools for that. And then we will also be obviously doing our qualifications and range training as well. That's all I have for you guys. Good.
Staffing?
We're still at 8. So still looking for qualified individuals that are interested and can apply within the station. And hopefully that we can get some more folks here soon.
What's the magic number you would want?
12.
How often have we had 12?
It's been a little bit since we've had 12.
I'm not saying that's an excuse.
If somebody was contemplating wanting to join up, what would you say the benefits of, being a volunteer police officer to that?
It's great being out, obviously, with the community, serving for the community. We like folks from the community to join. Folks outside of the community are welcome to join. But it's a great benefit learning, law enforcement, or if you're looking to step into law enforcement, looks good on a resume to be used as reference. But overall, being out there and serving the public is the overall.
And what type of training do we provide them?
We put them through a schoolcraft through the Reserve Police Academy. So they go through that. I think it's 18 weeks. So that's provided for them. It's usually 2 nights out of the week, maybe a couple weekends, when they start getting into range training and things like that. So
Then, once we bring them on board, what type of commitment are you kind of looking for?
we usually we do a monthly meeting, which is usually no more than 2 hours, 3 hours. Come out and do at least a minimum 4-hour road duty, working the road, and then obviously the events that we do could be 1 to 2 events a month to support. That's about it. There's could be call outs. Weather's obviously coming towards summer here with power lines and things like that. There's little things that we do besides just being out there on the road, but there's other things that we do that we require for maybe somebody to come in if they're available.
I don't need an exact number, but just once you've been through the training and everything else, and now you're on board, what is the average monthly commitment, do you think, for an individual? And it doesn't have to be, I'm just looking for your gut.
Minimum 12 hours.
Hours?
Yep.
It also depends on the time of the year. February is a lot slower than the summer months with all the boat clubs, and they come and ride with the officers, and it kind of is up and down based on the month what month it is and the weather too. So
Sounds like it could be rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Besides being out there and obviously doing the events for the community with the Island Fest, we really like us to be out there on the road with the guys, working with them, and obviously officer presence, right, and protecting the community.
One final question. What is the minimum requirements for someone to be eligible?
18 years old, pass a background.
U.S. citizen, to have a pass a background and then be able to qualify and meet our requirements for it's all this in the application is online. So if you go to the Rosedale Police Department Reserve Unit, it has all that on there also. So
Applications are also online as well as at the police department if needed.
Great. Thank you for your
Thanks.
service.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything more, Doug or Ken? Anything more from the monthly reports?
We have 2 officers signed up for the donut eating contest on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Where's that?
Officers will be representing GIPD at the donut eating contest. Very excited.
Where's it at? Where's it being held?
It's gonna be held at the Allen Park High School, 2 o'clock.
We can still sign you up, Mr. Anderson, if you'd like to join.
It's tempting, but I'll be out of town at my granddaughter's wedding.
The money raised will go towards autism awareness.
Very good.
Who's competing?
Sorry?
Who's competing?
Piazza, for one of our midnight officers, and Kevin Counts.
Oh, Kevin. Wow.
I would put my money on Piazza.
On the bottomless pit that he has.
Count?
Put it away.
Count?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, Piazza's.
Well, I just hope nobody gets injured. That's all.
Down to the liaison report, Mike.
Okay. Not a lot. As everyone knows, at the March 28th meeting, the budget was approved, and we didn't get quite enough funding to have a department of 24. It's just enough for 23. So we made a subsequent appeal to the board at the April 11th meeting. They said that they would be receptive to listening to our rationale, and there has been some meetings since then. So, you know, we're still pushing hard for that. Last meeting, a bridge engineer was hired, and so hopefully in the very near future, we'll have a better understanding of the true condition of the bridge and the amount of time from a professional, unbiased professional, as to, you know, how much time we have before major repairs are required again. So this is still, you know, a major concern. I thought it was good that we approved the engineer. We've been trying to get that done for quite some time. Let's see. That's pretty much it. I would say, though, that in terms of the engineer, there was three parts. 1 and 2 came together. That is gathering the information and then giving us an opinion. The part that wasn't approved of the proposal was utilizing their help in assisting in acquiring grants. And so, but that's still open. So we'll see how the first phase goes, and then if there's any real merit in utilizing them for a potential third phase, then that will be a discussion topic. But that is pretty much it.
Along those lines, where the current status of the bridge being repaired and then reopened this past summer, fall, I forgot when it was. No, it was November, wasn't it?
Remember, right around Thanksgiving, wasn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, what is the official status at this time based on the repairs that were made? Is there more repairs required that would they know of, or that they have planned yet, or they being the Wayne County?
Well, the only thing I can say is I think there was a commitment made that there will be a plan to repair the remaining 5 piers from Wayne County, but I have not seen that plan. And so I know that, you know, Township, Derek, Jim, they have discussions with Wayne County quite often. And I would think that this would be something that they'd be pushing for. Just need a plan, because there are 5 piers out there. Last I read the summary inspection in November of 2019 one, was it, I think? When they finished their repairs, that the remaining 5 were in fair to poor condition, that weren't untouched, so, but that's not the detailed report, so hopefully, you know, we'll know more with the engineer once that individual does his job. So, but hopefully we talked, I think, Doug, Ken, about making sure that we're enforcing the rules in terms of speed and stuff like that. I know we can't do anything about weight, but heavy trucks do more damage when they're going faster, right? The engineer did tell us that. It's common sense, so.
I don't believe we've had many citations issued on that, but the road guys are, the road officers are aware of it, so.
Okay, good. That is it for me.
Any questions there, Jeff?
Nope.
Can I have a motion to approve the monthly reports of,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
See, you've trained us, Jessica. All right, we have updates and discussion items. The second one, the deer cull, is being moved to the May meeting per your request, Doug, or per Pete's request. And there's one there, determine the promotion process for the lieutenant position. Let me give a little prefatory summary or discuss or comment leading into that, and my recommendation that's kind of grown besides just the lieutenant. What are we gonna do? I mean, we know we want to, now that we got the deputy chief or the chief and deputy chief filled, we want to get the entire organization, you know, in place the way our new command officers want it. And for the last couple of weeks, they've been making me come down and drink coffee with them. And I think what we need is a study session to talk about, there's been discussion, 22, 23, 24 officers. There's been discussion, we had a meeting with Ann Darsniak, the, I guess, what is she, assistant treasurer? Deputy treasurer?
Director of Finance, I think.
Director of Finance, regarding the budget and millage. I met with both Doug and Ken, and then Mike and I met with Ann, Doug, and Ken on the budget this past week. And I think we've become aligned on a lot of what the issues are. And I think we need a study session where we review all that with you guys. And I talked to Scott, and couldn't be here tonight. So, you know, we need Scott here too. Because we need to talk about the organization, the 2234, the budget going forward over the coming years, and the fact that millages and the way they drop and are cadenced, the lieutenant, and anticipated retirements. We know he talked about Officer Ferguson. So I think we need a study session as soon as we can make it. I'm not sure what everyone's, obviously I'm out of town next week. I don't know what anyone's availability is the first week of May. But I think we need to talk about all that together because they all tie into each other.
Yeah, no, I agree. We do need to talk about that. I think the big one you alluded to at the end is the succession plan, right? We went through a whole lot of, to get to, you know, deputy chief and a chief right now. We're talking about a lieutenant, but there's still, you know, 4 or 5 years, we're gonna have some more retirements, and we need to make sure we've got the next
Well, I was
batch.
saying, the organization, I've discussed it with Doug and Ken, and we also need, besides talking about 22, 3, 4 officers, but we need the org chart updated to show exactly how those 24 people, would report and function, any changes they would like to make now that, they're in charge. So rather than try and just jump into one item at a time, I think we need to have a study session of where we go. So do you mind if we try and set something up the first week of May?
Open May 3rd. It's a
Pardon?
May 3rd's a Tuesday. I have that evening open.
I know I'm back in town.
Mr. Anderson, without putting a rush on it, Ken and I were discussing prior to this, we would like to have you have a study session and then we have interviews or however the process takes forward. We've been without a lieutenant for a long time. We don't want to have it drag out for a long time. That's all we're asking, is just that we try to move as fast as we can without rushing the process.
Obviously, Doug, we're the same way.
All right.
The reason we have some of the situation is because it's taken a year and 3 months to get you two in place.
All right.
So
I understand. I just want to make sure that we just,
we're just gonna do it right.
thank you.
And I think after this study session, then we'll agree on a way to go and we'll push it as fast as we can.
Actually, you said you're out next week, right?
Yeah, my granddaughter's getting married down in Florida.
Okay. That's the week, yeah. Yeah, the first, unfortunately, I don't want to drag this out. So you can do it without me. But I probably won't be here the first week of May. And it's bad. It's my wife's birthday and I won't be around.
I'd give you a hard time, but I'm claiming my granddaughter, so.
Yeah, I think we're here tonight, and I thought we got this as a discussion item. Do we want to start, you don't want to have any of that discussion right now? I mean, I know Scott can't be here, but I see kind of a sense of urgency around this stuff.
Well, we don't have an action item for tonight. No,
Discuss the lieutenant process.
it's a discussion item.
Oh, okay.
So it's not on the agenda to take any action on the position.
Oh, no, but do we talk about maybe different ways of going about it, at least?
Oh, I'm just,
I think we can talk about ways of going about it. Yeah.
I have no problem going forward.
We got 6710 that pretty much tells us, what the parameters are set for us. It's up to us to say who we forward to the board for lieutenant on up. And so that's where we start. That's our limitations. If they don't like the person, then they can obviously request us to go back and present someone else. The first step has already been completed. You guys have completed job descriptions, so there's been a lot of progress there. I think we're all in agreement as to, I looked at them, Doug, you and Ken pretty much agree as to, the distinct duties and functions of the three positions. So we kind of know what the position is. And so we don't think we need to go to the outside, I believe. We got qualified people here.
Well, let me finish then, what I would have been saying at the study session, and that is the past practice and protocol is that we've selected the lieutenant from the sergeants on the force. And the way the process has gone, we try and hire the best officers. We get to see those guys in action, as they progress through their career, sergeants are promoted based on seniority. So when sergeant openings come up, the highest seniority patrolman or officer is promoted to fill the opening of sergeant. What that does then is the officers that are promoted to sergeant, we generally have a certain length of time to watch them and observe them as they do their job, get an idea of, you know, who's better than others, which ones may be considered going forward, and then when we have an opening, we generally interview from the sergeants. So that's been the practice for the 30 years that I've been on the commission.
So my perspective is these are kind of extraordinary times. I mean, you had COVID. Our sergeant has only been a sergeant for how long? How long is Prozac? How much? 6 months? Acting sergeant?
I think it's been more, 8 months, but it doesn't matter.
And my personal feeling is you want, the best person for the job. Todd could very well be that person, but we could have somebody else in there that maybe got promoted to sergeant. We had some not so great performers in the past, so I don't think we should ever limit ourselves just to sergeants, but maybe something like somebody that has 10, 15 years experience or something like that. I mean, that would be.
And that has been discussed. I mean, Doug and Ken have brought that up in our discussions this week.
Yeah.
That we've talked about. Problem with that is, one, in the 30 years I've been on the commission, we've never jumped a patrolman over a sergeant into the lieutenant's position. There was an occasion just before I came on to the commission where they did that through some gyrations similar to what we've gone through in the past couple of years, and that individual ended up being demoted back to where he was within a year or two. So the thing you miss when you do that is you've never had a chance to see that patrolman handling the command responsibilities and see how they mature through their sergeant's time in office or in rank. So I have a real concern. I share the thought of that, but I have a concern with, again, not following the process.
Well, here's something to think about.
The caveat to that is we're not just talking about doing something like this at a whim. I mean, yes, we only have one sergeant right now. That's not our fault. It's not the guy's fault or the officers and sergeants' fault. It's just because of what's gone on in the last 2-3 years. But we also have been able to see the gentleman that has been acting as lieutenant for the last 6-8 months in action. And I believe, and we'd have to let Doug and Ken talk about it, but the feedback I'm getting and my observations are that officer's done an outstanding job. So we do have a track record. But anyway, that's what I was thinking when we were all together in a study session. This, along with other things, we could knock this stuff around.
Is there any question about how many lieutenants there are going to be?
Pardon?
Is there any questions about how many lieutenants are going to be? Like, we're going to have one lieutenant, right?
At this point, I don't believe they're recommending more than one lieutenant. But that's why we talked, and we need that org chart when we have this discussion.
So if we know there's going to be one, I recognize the need for a study session. I don't know that we need to hold off, either going through an interview process or selecting a lieutenant now. I think we do need to go through the process.
I don't have
My-
generally I'm the guy pushing for that, so.
Right, so I would rather start on the process sooner, right? And I see kind of two ways to it, right? One is, yeah, we've had an excellent track record the last 8 months, right? And I think it'd be very hard to go over that person. By the same token, there were a lot of people that applied from the department for the chief position. And I think we've got a lot of leaders deeper in the department than we recognize. And I would like to see some way for those individuals to start showing themselves, and possibly also recognizing what deficiencies they're going to need over the next 3, 4, 5 years to move into a leadership position, because we're going to have some vacancies.
I kind of support that. I think.
So what
I
are you
mean,
proposing?
If it's hard to say to these individuals that they can interview for the chief job, but they can't interview for the lieutenant's job.
Right. So I would like to, with some risk of talking about jumping position, which I don't want to do. I would like to go through an interview position or interview
I wasn't
process to see.
suggesting we didn't do an interview
Yeah.
process.
Well, I think we can start
Study
it.
session, I thought because there's some idiosyncrasies in that, because,
Yeah. No, I get it. Right. There's the jump.
So
I think we
that's
can talk through that. At the end of the interview process. But I think that would be it would give a lot of the department an opportunity
I
to
have no
show,
problem with that.
hey, here's the depth you guys have. Let's
figured
start
that's what would have
recognizing
come
it.
out of the study session. So,
Well,
are you recommending then that we just
I-
start setting up interviews?
I would recommend
Of who's
that.
in
I
it?
would recommend that.
Yeah.
So, then, what's the protocol for posting for that? For people who would like to interview?
can I suggest something? And you guys tell me if you agree or disagree or whatever. You don't want people that have been here 1 year on the job interviewing for lieutenant, right?
No, they've got criteria that they.
So, can I just say, I would like to say at least, let's say 15, how many people do we have with 15 years or more?
Doug, what was yours
Four?
and Ken's recommendation?
I'd like to see.
Proposal when we first talked, as far as criteria,
Come up with a number of years that they have to make the cutoff. Then we would post a job listing of what the duties would be and what the requirements for like a resume, and then complete an interview process. That would be determined by you gentlemen.
There's 4 at 15 right now. How many are at 10?
And it depends, Jeff, on what Doug and I discussed about years of service in Grozio. Because when you start looking at years of service in other departments, that could push people above the
Right,
threshold.
no, I understand that.
And that could cloud the decision more.
Well, and the other thing we discussed was, if you take it to the 15, coincidentally, 15 years, coincidentally, those would be the guys that would be coming up to be our next sergeants. So had we not gone through the gyrations of the last couple of years, at least 1 or 2 of them would have been sergeants right now, probably. So that's why their recommendation of 15 years I thought was valid.
I support that. I think 4 is plenty. And, if nothing else, it gives these individuals some interviewing experience, and, we can
Was Doug's
give them
and
some
Ken's-
feedback afterwards and say, hey, guys, this is what you need. You just can't stay in one position. If you can't make it to sergeant, you should be, pushing for detective or something to, build on your experience. So.
Which was the rationale that Doug and Ken used.
So I think those guys are spot on. I support them 100%. I think, that's what I would agree to doing. 15 years experience here is at Grozil, was it, or just 15 years? Here,
Yeah,
Here at
in
Roselle.
in the
the
department.
department? I'm good with that. I think that works now. I mean, we can reassess our situation next time around, but if we had 3 sergeants, maybe it'd be a different discussion, but we got 1. And so 15 years experience in the department is eligibility to interview for lieutenant. You guys okay with that? Okay. Can we agree on that?
Wait a minute. Anything else you wanna throw out now, so that you don't yell at me later?
Oh, the commission, we want you guys to do the process, and so just give everybody that opportunity. And then you guys determine the process.
Well,
Yeah, if we can get a,
it'd be our normal interview process, of which you guys would be participating.
We're thinking dates, is when.
Pardon?
We're thinking dates, we gotta post it first.
Well, there's nothing saying that this interview process doesn't go in parallel to our study session agenda items that we still have to get through. It's not lockstep one over the other, we'll do it in parallel.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so what we've decided is you guys can post 15 years departmental experience.
And whatever other
You
criteria
know,
you
obviously,
think is.
all the basic stuff that you need,
valid.
that goes with that. Application, da-da-da-da. And then you set up the interviews as soon as it's practical. Does that sound good?
Are there any dates you guys are not available? I know you're gonna be gone Saturday for first week of May.
I can tell you which would be a good time for me, and I don't know if any other guys can pipe in as well. We got the board meeting on, when is that, the 20, is there a requirement how long it has to be posted for?
There is no written requirement.
Yeah, because it's internal, 15.
But
we don't-
generally, you post for at least a week.
Yeah.
At least a week to 10 days.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
whatever we've had as a past precedent, make sure we don't violate it.
some of the applicants may be on vacation or going on vacation, and we want to give them, everybody,
Right.
ample time to have a fair shot, so.
I like the dates around board meetings. So second and fourth Monday, or commission meetings, for me personally. That seems to work. So the 25th, you're saying it's too soon?
The earliest you're gonna be able to do anything's,
I'm open the 3rd and 10th.
pardon?
The 10th would be a great day. It gives us time to post it. Give the officers an opportunity to put their resumes together, prepare. Us to check the schedules to make sure.
Mike, how's it look for you?
Good for me.
Here.
Good.
All right, but we still need to have the study session, guys. We don't just have the lieutenant position, so how about the
Study
third?
session on the 3rd
How about a study session on the 3rd?
for 5 minutes, right?
Less than an hour. Can't violate your contract. So, we'll have a study session on May 3rd, 6, 7, 5. I don't,
I like 7.
7's fine. And then tentatively, depending on how things go, interviews on the 10th.
How long do you want to set aside for each interview?
Half hour, 45, which I don't think we need an hour.
I think 45 is probably good.
Half hour might be too short.
Yeah.
And then, do you want time afterwards as a buffer? How we kind of did it for the dispatchers?
I think we'd just work it in, or do you, because then you're saying, well,
Oh,
allocate.
you wanna work the,
We did for the dispatchers, we scheduled them for 30 minutes for the, one round of the interviews, and we had a 10-minute grace period for overflows and discussions after the interviews. I'm
It's
just,
up to you guys.
what do you guys
What's your
want?
pleasure?
45 minutes for the interview and then 5 minutes for the in-between, and then we'll do at the end.
when you start that one at 6:30?
Yeah, 6 maybe even. That'd be 10 o'clock night. That'd be a late night.
6 p.m. for the first one, 45-minute blocks with a 5-minute space in between there, and then public safety building, or where would the interviews be held? Where do you guys want to do the interviews? Just like
In
public safety, all right.
Study sessions in the conference room.
Yes. I'm sorry.
There's at 6 PM for the interviews, all right.
Good.
And then I'll get an email out to you guys of some of the things I think will be covered in the study session. And if I have any, just, backup to give you a heads up on that, I'll send it to you so you don't come in cold.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that'd be nice is the, list of all the people in the department with their years of service.
All right, we'll get
Help
that.
facilitate that one.
Stuff we discussed this week done by the 3rd for us to use in this study session. Okay. Any more as far as department updates or discussion? There are no action items. Did you have some comments?
Just that, Deputy Chief Palin checked the schedule, and a lot of the people we're talking about based on time will be they're in town that day working, so
Well,
may not be a scheduling for
you
them.
guys will sort that out.
Yep.
Preferably, we don't have to move it. There are no action items. Well, anything more from you guys? Jessica? No action item? Public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Because there's no reason you can't find that money in that budget. I'm sorry, I've done budgets for too many years, you can always find money when you want to. And anybody I've spoken with about this topic on the island, and I spoke to a lot of my girlfriends. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay. I've spoken to a lot of my friends, mostly my girlfriends. They all are very upset at the thought of having the police cut. The one thing we really care about here is safety and security, and the women are like in lockstep. They said, we don't care about a lot of the things that goes on in the township where they spend their money, but they want the money to go to the police. You guys are important to us. So I know, I have had budget backgrounds. I'm sure if Ann looks really hard, she can find this money. It's not a big deal. And I'm grateful that you're looking into it and they're pursuing it and they're not turning a blind eye to the board. I'm very
Had
happy
a
to
lot
hear
of
that.
discussions, and Mike's spending a lot of time.
Good.
At
It's
the board
important.
level. So at this point,
Promising.
I think we need to let the process work itself out.
And people are happy, will be happy to hear that, because I'll tell you what, they weren't happy when they thought we were losing a police officer. Not at all. And thank you again for pursuing it.
Team effort.
Any other public comment?
Greg Karmazin. Following up on Kathy's comments, I'm very encouraged to hear that you are working on the staffing issue. I know there was quite a bit of discussion about this at the township board meeting. The issue was described as being 23 versus 24 positions, but I think in this maybe could come across at a study session or however you want to do it, but I think the discussion that I'd like to see, and I think a lot of people that I've talked to in the committee would like to see, is an explanation of how the road patrols are scheduled. And it's my understanding that for at least 20 years or so, there have been 3 cars on the road through all the shifts scheduled. And I know from time to time that hasn't been possible because of, staffing being uneven or people being out or whatever. But the idea was at least for this period of time that by having 3 cars on the road, you have an optimal level of response to handle at least 2 911 calls, either at the same time or sequentially, and to get a response time of, I believe the goal has been 3 to 5 minutes. It's my understanding that you need to have three patrol cars on the road to do that, and that seems to be the big concern that I hear from citizens, that that they really don't want to see a reduction in the response times. And everybody understands the budgets are tight, and COVID and all the things that have happened have caused a lot of stress, and I understand the township's need to do budget tightening, and I support that, and I think most people understand that. But at the same time, as you're prioritizing, I think it is important to make sure that you have the level of policing that the residents really want on the island. And that, I think, does take 3 cars being on the road. A couple other quick things. Deer Call, glad to hear that that's been successful this year, and I look forward to hearing more details about it. I also saw on social media that Chief Carmack and Deputy Chief Pellin did some great outreach to the Grosse Ile schools, and it's encouraging to see that kind of activity going on. And finally, I just had a question on the license plate reader. Is there an update on where that is and when that's going to be activated again?
Doug can give you an update.
So what we're waiting on is we had the DT ran the power to the pole, but they wouldn't energize it because it's not their equipment. So we got an electrician to power it, and then the camera system's going to be installed, and then the program will be put in place, and then Comcast has to come and finish it to get it all live to our department. So Comcast gave us, and this is the last update I got, to the end, the last part of it should be about 5 weeks. That's for the last part where it should be done. So they're staggering them out the time to do it. So that's what I was told from our last update.
Okay, well,
Hopefully they can stick to it with the timelines they had.
if I trust your judgment on how to work best with Comcast, but if I would like to see the township board take some responsibility too for this. If there's any need to go to high levels of Comcast and expedite something, I would hope that the township board could actually help out with that as well.
I think at this point that we need any help from the township board. This one's on us.
Mr. Carmazan, we're on track from what I'm understanding, being told. It's just they have it staggered out because of different delays, but they have been staggered out to get it in process, and so far it is moving forward from the last project, from the cement being laid, the pole being put up, DT putting power, the permits, the whole process. So
Okay, all right,
we are moving a little faster on it. So
good. I'm glad to hear it's happening. Thank you.
So, no more public comment. You have any final comments, Doug?
no, sir.
Ken? Jessica? Because you're the only one that's account here. We're just drinking coffee. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.